Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Overdrive Guitar channel. Now this is going to be kind of a different video. If you're looking for a video where we're teaching you some hot licks, this is not the one. While there might be a little bit of playing in here, it's not really the playing kind of video. This video is going to be a little different. It's going to be kind of a concept video, kind of a video on changing the way we approach or we think about learning the guitar, or it could be any instrument actually, but changing kind of our viewpoint, our approach. It's just a concept thing. Now this concept can help if you're a beginner in a lot of ways, kind of the importance of the order of what you learn, that you kind of need to walk before you can run, that kind of thing. It can be very useful for people in a rut, going back and re-examining things that we probably didn't give enough attention the first time around. That is a regular part of my practice routine. So this is more of a kind of philosophy or concept video to get you in that right frame of mind to grasp those musical ideas that you're trying to get to. So without further ado, the concept, and I'm sure you've heard this before, is that music is a language. And I would go even a step further and agree with some other people who say music is the universal language. I think you can just point to the evidence that it doesn't really matter where you're from, what language you speak, your culture. If you put a piece of music on, that person can tell what the musician is trying to get across. In that way, I believe it's a universal language. We can play major chords. No matter where we are, they're always going to sound brighter and happier. Our minor chords are always going to sound duller or sadder. It doesn't change. We are trying to elicit responses from our phrasing and our note choice, and we're trying to figure out the correct phrasing and note choice to elicit the particular responses that we are aiming for. In this way, it's very useful to think of music as a language. When a piece of music comes on, it doesn't matter what language it's in. It often doesn't matter if there's any words at all. Music being the universal language, we can often understand this point. So we start our guitar journey much in the same way that we start our language journey, and that is imitating the people around us and the people who have influence on us. I could go on and on, but the parallels never stop. Music is most definitely a language. So when you're a child and you're learning to speak, the first thing you do is you start imitating the people around you in your influences, which is no different than our guitar journey. So now we think of, you get a little bit along in school and they try to teach you a second language. The first thing they do is they put this big book in front of you with all these rules of grammar and conjugating verbs and singular, plural, male, female, all this stuff, and chances are you don't remember any of it. Why? Because you weren't immersed in it. If you had to move somewhere when you were a child and you had to actually communicate in a second language, you pick that language up extremely fast because of the interaction, and we'll get more to that later. So when you tried to learn the second language in school, they plopped this big book in front of you with all these rules of grammar and conjugating verbs and whatnot, all that stuff I said before. Well, that can be kind of directly related to our music theory books, right? So music theory is our grammar, and in that way, I feel music theory is very, very important to learn. However, in my opinion, its use is to describe something that you have played not to be used as a creative tool to think of parts to play. So if we shift our thinking and we think of learning our instrument as learning a language, and we truly immerse ourselves in it, and we are bouncing phrases off of other musicians, and we are kind of gauging their reactions and stuff, it's just like learning a language, and that's how we're going to learn quickly, and that's how we're going to learn to get our own voice on the instrument, which in my opinion is the goal. All of that was a long-winded way to say it can be very, very useful to just shift your thinking and realize that guitar is a language. So how do we apply this to our actual playing? The first way, don't be afraid to wear your influences on your sleeve. If you need some kind of confirmation that it's okay to borrow heavy inspiration from your influences, I mean, just look at your influences. They probably wear their influences on their sleeve, just like you can. If you look at SRV, you can very clearly hear the Albert King phrasing, the Buddy Guy. He even covers their songs. The Hendrix, another hero of mine, Angus Young, he's basically just a supercharged Chuck Berry. So it's okay to wear your influences on your sleeve. The next thing is do what sounds good and feels good, even if music theory says it's wrong. Just like in speaking, our real goal is to elicit some kind of reaction out of what we say. So as long as we elicit the reaction that we're looking for, it doesn't really matter our note choice, or if music theory says this note choice is correct. As guitar players, we typically only get a very small window to really say what we want to say the time of the guitar solo, like 8 to 16 bars. It's a very, very short amount of time to really convey what we're trying to say, so it's very important to be effective and economical in our phrasing. My next tip is to play with other people. Just like learning any other language, the fastest way that you're going to learn it is by using it. This is why it is crucial, especially in the early stages of learning an instrument, to play with other people, whether they play the same instrument as you or not. Music is the language, not guitar. The next thing I'm going to touch on, I touched on in my video about learning the A minor scale, and that is singing the intervals as we learn a scale or a part or anything we're learning. Singing, and that doesn't mean we have to belt it out or be perfectly on pitch or even necessarily do it out loud all the time, but singing these intervals as we learn them is our first step to knowing what we're going to play before we play it, which is it's where we want to go, right? My next point is don't focus on the wrong things. Too many people I have seen spent tons and tons of time building up their speed playing a scale, and they're kind of like, well, what speed is it that I can finally stop? To me, this is all wrong. If we use our language analogy, that's like just learning to recite the alphabet really, really fast, when what we want to do is write poetry. It just doesn't seem useful to me. The last thing I want to talk about is kind of a human defect, and that is how we tend to compare ourselves to others. It's very hard not to, and it's, like I said, it's only human, but guitar is not a competition. Some people are better at some things than others, and that is the beauty of collaboration. Play on your strengths. I hope this video made sense to you guys. I hope you got something out of it. Please hit like and subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming content. Thanks guys, keep rocking.